Hoffman. Thank you. So Kathy had prepared a presentation for people to look at 2020 and come up with one word. And I actually wanted, because I've had a very interesting 2019, is to ask you guys, and there's a paper that should have been handed out. It's not as pretty as I normally like to make things, but it's functional. For you to take a moment and look back over 2019. What word might best describe 2019 for you? And then we're going to talk about 2020. So if I can give you just a second, it'll be more than a second. All right, you guys all took a second and thought about it. What I did when I was thinking about this is I've had a really interesting year, in particular because of my husband. And because we've had a lot of health challenges for him, I've had a lot of people come up and say, oh, I'm so sorry, or oh, kind of their energy is they're very kind, but the word keeps coming up, they're sorry. But my word is grateful. My husband on June 27th, he's kind of like this burly guy who like works all the time, and you can't ever tell him not to do anything. He's going to make things happen by a force of will. And he was having trouble walking and catching his breath, and didn't exhibit any heart attack symptoms, although he'd been to the doctor that day to check out what was going on with him that morning. But as I watched this guy struggle to walk up our second flight of steps, my son was helping him, and he's like, oh, I'm fine, I'll go to work in the morning, I'm fine. And he wasn't. And so my son and I convinced him to go to the hospital. When we got to the hospital, they said he'd had a heart attack between the time he'd gone to the doctor in the morning and we got him in. He didn't exhibit any of the signs except shortness of breath. That was his only sign. So we go through this, and I'm grateful. I'm not sorry, we got him there in time. So for me, thank you, God. About a week later, he still had some shortness of breath, not so bad. He was back to work within 3 days. The guy's a monster on working. And he goes for a nuclear test of his chest. And they find out he's got a blood clot in the right lung, a blood clot in the left lung. He's got blood clots in his legs, and one was very near his heart. Back in for another stay in the hospital. But again, I'm grateful they found it. Modern medicine, my guy's okay. Also identified he has a genetic clotting disorder. So my guy's alive. Now, a couple of days later, remember, can't keep this guy down. He's back to work. And he's now on 2 blood thinners, one for the clot, one for the heart attack. And he falls. Thing they tell him, do not fall, don't even bump your head. You could die like that. So my son calls me and he goes, Dad fell on the job. He won't go to the hospital. Of course he won't, because he's Superman guy. He's not going to go. I go, I convince him. We go to the hospital. Another short stay in the hospital. Again, grateful. He didn't bleed out. Good. So my crazy guy is up on a roof in October. Falls head first. 13 and a half. You guys see some of my stuff on Facebook. I put a couple of them. But when this stuff kept coming, it was like, no way. No, I'm sick of it. I don't want to read any more about it. I don't want to talk about it. But he falls. He impacts here. He's out of the hospital in 2 days. And they're talking in the hospital this doesn't happen. 68 years old. He's got a head injury. He's supposed to be bleeding, and he's not. So I look at 2018 or 2019 and all the things that happened in the business. Gateway grew. We had a stellar impact awards. We keep helping people with their dreams. But in my personal life, I'm just coming from, I am so freaking grateful that my guy's here. There's another weird twist to this that I didn't think I was going to share, but I'm going to share because I'm kind of that person that overshares a little. My husband has always been agnostic. Didn't really get this God thing. And after the fall from the roof, he's now going, I got to find God. I've got to find God. And I felt like for me, I'm looking at him going, okay, he's got such a hard head. God's tried 3 times to get to him. So for a woman who loves God, I'm looking like, okay, this is really cool. He's now going, like he goes to 3 different churches every weekend trying to find God. So if anybody in here has a really good church to help the guy find God, I found God, I love God, but we need to help him. So grateful. So then now I want to ask you guys, think about 2020. It's coming up. A word of inspiration. Yeah, you want to move these for me? Kathy talked about, and for all of us, words to me can heal, they can harm, they can inspire, they can demotivate. But if you were just going to pick one word only, for 2019, what might that be? It can ignite you. When the right word hits you, you kind of get it in your heart or your gut, it can ignite you, it can motivate you. It can also provide freedom. If you kind of have this thing going on in your head, that's my word for the year. Next. Oh, there's my gratitude. I'm grateful. And time is ticking by, so here we are, coming to the end of the year. What might your word be? And I'd like to give you guys a few moments to think about that. And you might think about some of your dreams for 2020, some of your goals for 2020. What might that one word be? Can I ask around the room, what are some of the words that you guys came up with to inspire you for 2020? Yes, Donna Lee.
My word is adaptable. Adaptability. And how I relate to it is I've changed. I've had a powerful year, 2019, a lot of growth, a lot of inner work, and in my business and where I'm going. But how am I adapting that, engaging with it, and incorporating it into all that I do?
Great. Someone else, John Brandvine. Wait for the mic. We need one for John. And who? Somebody else had their hand up? Okay, after John. Okay, we're going in that order.
Absolutely. So for 2020, the word that came to my mind was growth in many ways. Number one, my business. It is a new business I started this year, so certainly 2020 is going to be a year of growth. I also recently got married in August of this year, so certainly growing in my new marriage. And then of course, since the Lord was mentioned this morning, always continuing to grow in my faith and growing in my knowledge between the industry I'm now in, which is healthcare, and certainly growing in my knowledge of the Lord as well.
So you might talk to my husband for me.
Mine is faith.
Faith?
Faith. I believe, and my family has told me, that the man upstairs looks after me to make sure that nothing happens. I also did a visitation of upstairs and downstairs to determine where to go in the hereafter. It was determined afterwards that neither one wanted me. They felt I could do more harm and more good here on earth than I could in either one of their domiciles. So I just signed a 25-year lease.
Anyone else? Sally?
I wrote down intentional.
Mm.
I think that if we wake up every morning and ask ourselves what is my intended moment here on earth. I mean, if you start every single day fresh, what is it that I'm really intended to be here today for? It redirects everything on faith-based, on your family, love. It all connects. And this year in 2020, it's the walk against human trafficking that I'm hoping that we will have the nation's largest walk against human trafficking here in St. Louis. So I'll expect you all to be there.
Intentional. Anyone else with their word? Yes.
I'll do it.
This part over here has it down. I must not have done.
I actually just made this word my new password, and my word for 2020 is worthy. Yeah, and it's weird because for 2019 I put raw was my one word, and when you start putting it all together and you're making all these mistakes and you're starting to figure things out. I've never run a business or started a business, but I know I'm going to have one. And now this year it's like, all right, all that stuff is going to come together, and I just know it's going to work out, and I put the work in, and I'm just waiting for it. But one of the mind blocks is should I or why, but I feel like worthy. It's coming.
Awesome.
Worthy.
Anybody else? Yeah, all the way in the back. Bill. Wait. Oh, there's a microphone back there. Yay.
My word for 2020 is going to be focus. Love for wife, inattention, and giving to others. Treat distractions accordingly, and don't let any negatives consume me.
Great. Now, I'm going to share my word, and it is ask. And for those that have more of a servant's heart, or you're like the giver and you're not always great at the receiving, asking has really, really been hard for me. And every year of Gateway, I've come further with it. And so this year, I'm going to invite everyone in the room if you'd like to come to one of Connecting and Promoting Women's meetings. We meet usually on the fourth Wednesday, the week after E4E. In December, we meet on December 11th. You're all invited for free as my guest. But if you come for free as my guest and you like us, join our community. We are all about trying to help our community grow. And our mission is to encourage people to dream their dreams and be supported in their dreams, because all dreams matter. We're also going to be looking for sponsorships. So I'm going to be asking for sponsors and donations and volunteers. There's this wonderful man in the room named Richard Terry. Did you see if you go back to the bathroom, you'll see all those boxes back there. We get some money together, and we will have a little kitchenette there that will really help us when we host our events that have food. So my word is ask. And I would also like to just ask you guys to think about taking that word and either having maybe a graphic designer make that word up for you, print it out, carry it, put it in your day timer, but don't forget a word that you've picked to inspire you for 2020. Thank you, guys.